Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I'm joined by a couple of Return Peace Corps volunteers, and we're going to talk to you guys about our experience working with STARS and working with youth empowerment camps and their importance. Kat, if you want to start us off.
Yeah, sure. My name is Kat Killian, and I was a health volunteer in Ghana from 2016 to 2018.
My name is Courtney Lonza. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ghana from 2014 to 2016, and I was a secondary school science teacher in the Volta region.
Hi, I'm Travis Legerman. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ghana also from 2015 to 2017, and I served as a secondary science education volunteer teaching chemistry.
Hi, I'm Kristen Vogel, and I served in Ghana from 2014 to 2016. I taught junior high school science and ICT in the Upper West region.
Courtney and Kristen, can you talk a little bit about, well, why you wanted to do these kind of camps?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump into first, why I wanted to be a part of it. Basically, I had seen a couple older volunteers. They were kind of passionate about the camp, and they had been involved in it, and they came over and were talking about the experience they have. And from there, I kind of learned a little bit more about it and understood the impact that it had on a lot of these students around the whole country of Ghana. So from there, I thought it'd be great to be a part of the project and be able to get a lot of other volunteers to have students from around the whole country be able to be a part of that.
Yeah, I would agree with Courtney on a lot of that. Also, I was with her when we first started learning about STARS from the older education volunteers who were kind of resurrecting it. It had happened in Ghana before, and it hadn't happened for a few years, and they wanted to bring it back. And it was just very inspiring to see students from all over Ghana who don't get the chance to do things like this come together for a week and have all these opportunities that usually aren't at their fingertips.
Travis, you can jump in here. What made you want to join?
I also heard about it from, older volunteers, and they would say, they'd pretty much confidently say, this is one of the most impactful, parts of my service. And so I wanted to be, part of that and experience that with students that I was starting to develop relationships with in my own community.
Kat, for me, I was a part of that conference that they were all talking about. And then when the next one came up, I was so glad that you kind of took lead. Can you talk about why you decided to join in and get involved with this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of along the same lines as what everyone's been saying. I had heard other volunteers talk about their experiences with camps, and it seems like a really rewarding project where you could sort of have the ability to be more creative and helping the students think about what they wanted to do. And yeah, it was a really great experience.
What was it about STARS that makes it so different from how it's like working with students in school?
I loved the fact that obviously kind of in the sense of school, yes, you had a schedule, a standard schedule, and you kind of had a flow of things with different sort of goals alongside. But I also liked the fact that you had a lot of freedom to put in, just really unique and fun different types of sessions. In there at one point I taught a longboarding session, which is so out there. They don't really often see longboards or skateboards within Ghana itself, just because it's not a huge thing. And so that was a really unique way to get people out of their comfort zones and try new things and really metaphorically fall on their faces, but get back up and keep trying.
Yeah, I would just echo that, it's a completely different, free environment. So, I can remember teaching in the classroom in our community where you had to be mindful of which way you wrote on the chalkboard, and the students are so used to learning a certain specific way once they're in that classroom, like the room itself. But going to a different place like this camp, I think their expectations were just, gone. Like they didn't know what to expect. And so they were able to, open up their minds to learning different things, learning in different ways, and realizing there's a lot more out there than just like following the textbook.
Yeah, and I also like the way that it made people more comfortable about traveling too, because a lot of the students hadn't traveled outside of their village or their community, or if they hadn't gone too far. But they had the comfort of traveling with a teacher, someone that their family and their school knew of, and then obviously they knew they would be in safe hands. And then from there, it started to feel more comfortable traveling to a different place. And so I think in a sense that also helped them feel more comfortable in the future to do something like that.
Yeah, you guys, you bring up a good point about the traveling part. I was talking to a couple of students before, and they always bring up the fact that one thing they really loved about STARS is the fact that they got to meet people from other parts of Ghana, and that they got to talk to them and share experiences and really see more of Ghana than they have ever probably thought about. Did you get that sense from talking to the students there, how impactful that is?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. One, I have kind of 2 points of that. One is that, yes, I think those networks, as we've said, like are so important amongst the students. The students that I'm still in contact with that attended that camp, in our conversations, occasionally they'll say, oh, Etiam is, doing well still over here in this region. And like, so they're maintaining, contact with each other now, 4-5 years after the camp, which I think is really special. And then even more compelling actually for me is one of my students was from the Upper West region originally, even though he had moved down to the Ashanti region, more southern part of the country, for a school where I met him. And he met a group of younger kids from the middle school level that were also from the Upper West region. And for them, being in the Upper West region, it's, a harder area to pursue education all the way through, like completing high school. And these kids were able to actually see, someone from the Upper West that was in high school and like going to finish high school. And so for them, it was this really important connection, I think, that they made with each other, to see this like role model that, yeah, it might be hard, but no, like there are people doing it. Like I can maybe do this, I can finish and pursue higher education. And so it was really cool for, my student to be kind of like a role model for these younger kids that were from the same region.
I wanted to also talk to you guys about gender equality. We all know how Ghana is, especially for young girls, how difficult things are for them. The camp really does a good job of showing them and teaching them about gender equality. Can you guys talk a little bit about how that was for you guys, and what did you guys hear from the participants?
I think something that really stood out to me was that we had a student at the university where the camp was held, a female student who was studying like a STEM field. She came and talked to the students. And so it was really important for them to like meet someone, and it was no longer like an abstract concept. It was someone in front of them that was pursuing this field. And it wasn't just like confined to a certain idea of what a person that would pursue that would look like or act like. Yeah, I think we had some sessions around like female empowerment and just like understanding the importance of gender equality. And it was really great to see these conversations that had never really been had before or weren't like a big focus, and kind of like pushing those boundaries, and encouraging students to think and like discuss things that might have made them uncomfortable initially. And they really opened up. Like it was really beautiful to see.
I think, just like anywhere, for girls, it's huge to have access to female role models that have made it into positions that they might never think that they could make it to, or and to be able to talk to those women. And I think that it provided an avenue for them to do that. You can't just focus on the girls and the women. In order for gender equality, you have to focus on everyone, because everyone has to be a partner in that. And I think that that's something we did really well at the camp, and it really did play out as just kind of creating an atmosphere of mutual respect. And I hesitate to say that was necessarily like, that's something that's not in Ghana per se. I think it is in Ghana in ways that it might not be in the US and vice versa. But I think that in general, this camp was a great opportunity for an atmosphere of mutual respect and creating that respect for each other, and empowerment for, empowerment for women and girls is also empowerment for boys and men. So it's just kind of empowerment for everyone.
Yeah, I always tell this story. I see the thumbs up. I always tell this story of one of the students that went to the Stars. Well, I forgot which one it was, but there was a presenter that talked about HIV/AIDS, and that she had AIDS, and her struggles through, being in her community, and the medicines that she takes and everything. And one of the female students I took to one of the camps, she came back to the community, and she was so impacted by it. She presented in front of the elders what she learned in STARS, specifically that, and how we need to treat people with HIV and AIDS better. And for her to get up in front of them, you guys know how it is for a young girl to get up in front of the elders and present and talk about this stuff. It was just so amazing to see. And that was one of the things that really got to me. It was seeing her come from this shy little girl that barely ever talked, to going all the way up to the elders and saying, hey, we need to do this and we need to do this better. So that empowerment that you get from these camps is just so huge, and it's life-changing, I know, for her.
Yeah, I think we were at that same camp, and I remember afterwards, I absolutely loved that session because she really was able to show that stigma is there, and it's a barrier for a lot of people that are that have HIV or anything like that. And so it really normalized her as a person, and people got to see her as a person and not as, the disease. And afterwards, I just loved it because we had all these students going and asking her if they could take selfies with her, and they all just wanted to talk with her and hang out with her. And so it was just a really nice, unique way of being able to just show that it's normal and it's fine.
One of the other things that we do in the STARS camp is we do the university tours. And hands down, that and the session that we have on college life, and students come in and talk to our students about how their life is probably the one thing that everybody that I've talked to now doing these interviews have always mentioned that. That was so impactful for them, and that made them want to keep going to college. Did you guys have any feedback on any of those?
I was really ecstatic and proud of my student because he had the same feelings after the camp. He wanted to, he knew that he was always going to go to school, but he's I want to go here, and I can do it no matter what now. He was just reinvigorated, and he was able to get this awesome MasterCard Foundation scholarship, which I think was in a large part due to his experience with STARS and other extracurriculars he did, amongst his own accomplishments and just intelligence, because he was a really, really bright kid. And so yeah, he was in KNUST at that college right now.
That's awesome.
With his degree. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome to see too, how these students come back and want to help out, and they get that sense of helping others and wanting to continue what they learned and spread that around. I interview so many people, and they're always telling me the same thing. Yeah, after the camp, I started a hand washing program at my village, or I started teaching about HIV/AIDS. I just talked to Collins, one of the interviews that we did, and he took the condoms that they had, and they did a whole lesson on HIV/AIDS and how to use a condom correctly, things like that. So it's amazing to see that kind of work and how that sense of service comes into play.
I think that's another important aspect of the camp. I think afterwards, you all the students go home with a goal, something tangible and something to do afterwards. A couple of my students, they did something very similar where they went to the nearby junior high school and they taught about sexual health and sexual ed. It was really it was a great opportunity for them because they got to utilize their public speaking skills and then also, do something that's important to their community.
I think I take it back to just like the name of the new nonprofit organization, looking for leaders, and the goal of STARS, and what we've kind of just been talking about, how how Courtney was saying, everyone who goes with some kind of goal to take back to their community and something that they want to do with what they've learned or experienced, or spread what they've learned or experienced to other people in their community. And I think that that's the whole idea is, and I like the name Looking for Leaders, because we're not creating leaders, they are leaders. It's just, trying to give them the same resources and opportunities that so many of us are privileged to have, in order to cultivate their leadership capabilities and bring that back to where they're from.
And another thing I want to point out, which was really great and something that I was super excited about, was that all of the students were extremely positive during this experience. People were pushing each other to do better and encouraging each other, and that's just a really beautiful experience when you can get everyone on board and everyone in a positive space, being able to push people to think creatively, and also pushing, maybe the quieter people to voice their opinions and have everyone feel supported and free to be who they are.
Yeah, you guys all bring up such a good point, because usually, we talk about how these camps, how the people that are working in these camps give them hope and support and all these things. But in so many ways, the actual students themselves give each other that. They're supporting each other, and they're, helping out, and they're giving them that hope that, to continue, and that safe space for them to freely talk about whatever they want to, and express themselves. So yeah, that's a really good point. For the people that have never been to Ghana and never seen how life is like in a lot of developing countries, can you guys talk about how important this camp was to you and how development work ties into that?
I know there's like so much discourse around development, and like conflicting discourse around development, and I do see it as development work, and I see it as the kind of the positive development work, because of what everyone here has just agreed to and said. Like, it's not bringing like help or ideas or any like outside like solutions to the students that are part of these camps. It's really just bringing trying to basically even the playing field, because the fact is they are in a developing country, and we did grow up in a developed country, and we have different resources and opportunities, and it's trying to bring some of those resources and opportunities to a place that they aren't usually in, because these students deserve it just as much as we do. And it's, like we've said, they are leaders, and it's just like the ability to cultivate that leadership is what I think this camp brings to them.
I just want to add something along those lines. I think one of the things that I really appreciated was in the beginning of the camp that we had like a college fair. So like all of the universities that we could think of had like a little poster, and each volunteer like presented about the university, and it was based on like what your interests were. And I think these are universities that exist, obviously, but maybe it's not like, for me personally, if I'm not pushed to kind of like think outside of like what's in front of me, like if I don't really think about what it's like to go somewhere else, I don't really consider it. I don't know if I'm making sense. Mm-hmm. But it's just like encouraging students to visualize themselves at a university, even if it was like on the complete opposite side of the country, and talking about why that could be a good thing, or maybe even a university like within an hour of their community, but just like maybe scenarios that they hadn't necessarily envisioned, just like presenting that information and letting them like tap into what's already there.
I guess just to wrap things up, just go around the room here, and if there's something that you can tell potential donors or people that are interested in helping us out about anything else that we haven't talked about these camps.
For me, it's really about spreading our resources and opportunities to people who deserve them but don't have them. And I think that this is one wonderful opportunity to do that. And I think it's full of a lot of people who have their hearts really in the right place about it, and really wants to look for leaders that can be cultivated and, put our energies into encouraging and supporting others to become the best people that they can be.
I would say that, I think this is a really solid investment because it's an investment in something that isn't necessarily tangible, but really important. And that being, helping realize like the potential and the leaders that are out there. And I think we're already seeing some, cases of that from what past STARS students have done or are, doing right now. So yeah, I'd say this is a very solid investment, and I urge you all to invest.
Yeah, I just want to voice and second Kristen and Travis. I think that out of my entire Peace Corps experience, there was a couple points where I was just like, not only do I feel like I am, 100% doing something positive, but also I'm having an incredibly large amount of fun, like so much fun. You're just happy and smiling and bonding with people and doing fun and silly activities. And it's just a really cool week because it has so many different sessions that a lot of students have never experienced, and so many highs within there. You get to do really fun and silly science experiments, and then talk about women's empowerment, and then talk about, like setting goals for yourself, short-term goals, long-term goals, SMART goals, seeing people that are leaders that look like you in a facility that you've never been to, traveling far distances, meeting new friends, being a leader for the young students that are a part of the camp. So much positivity surrounding you, and like people pushing you to do your best and to be better. And I think it was just such a positive place to be yourself and to just be as creative as you want with the things that you were interested in. And I definitely wholeheartedly back STARS and Globro Camp and all of that. I think it makes such a positive impact and difference and change within students' lives, and it definitely helped in getting some of those students onto secondary school if they were junior high school students, or university along the way. Now both of my students are in universities, and that's such a massive thing.
Yeah, I would say one of the things that I think is helpful to think about is it's really not just a week. Like the experiences that these students have, they take with them and they keep with them for a long time. And they can be very long lasting. And like some of what we've already talked about, the connections that they build with other students, or even like leaders of NGOs or other organizations that came and presented, like the people that they met through that, they're able to really have exposure to different kinds of careers that they can pursue and like keep those contacts. And that's a mentor, that's a person that supports them. And so it's, it's 1 week that's kind of a whirlwind, and there's a lot of different things, and it's all really beautiful and very fun. But oftentimes, like, I think that this experience does last. Yeah, they're amazing.
Well, thank you guys all for joining me. Thank you guys for talking about this, and we really appreciate all the support and your time tonight. So thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Alfredo.
Thank you, Alfredo.
Thanks.